I'm Liz and welcome to the Milk and Honey YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making my knotted shoulder tote. I saw a couple bags on Pinterest that had a knot at the top, which I thought was a really great design element to customize the bag to fit you better. I also decided to try doing a curved bottom instead of boxing the corners. And I've been wanting to practice sewing welted zipper pockets. So I added one to the lining of my bag and I really like how it came out, and it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I decided to make two body size options and two strap lengths. So we have the large and the small, and then we have shoulder length straps and crossbody straps. So you can really customize this bag to fit your needs the best. I wanted the bag to look a little bit more slouchy than structured, so I didn't add any interfacing to the exterior, and I decided to go with this beautiful woven fabric from Fabulism. It's my first time working with their fabrics, and I am super impressed with not only the quality, but the way that the fabric falls when you're using the bag. I have a huge stack of their fabrics, so you're definitely going to see more of them in the future. So this project, it's a little bit more of an intermediate project, but if you're a confident beginner, I'm sure that you're going to be able to do it. I like to say, if a project makes you excited to sew, it's going to give you that extra push to work through any issues that might come up. And of course, if you get stuck along the way, my email box is always open for help. So if this project is something that you'd like to try out, stick around. I'll be sharing the templates for the small size in the description, and the sizes for the bag will also be in the description. I'll link the PDF pattern below, and that's going to include the print at home instructions and templates for US and A4 paper. Let's dive in. So starting with a template, if you purchase the pattern, or you're using the downloadable ones from my site, you want to start by printing only the first page, and you're going to want to verify that this square in the bottom right hand corner measures 1 inch by 1 inch. So once you have verified that it is the right size, then we know that all of our template pieces to follow are going to be the right size. So once you print them out, you're going to have something like this. You should have a total of 10 pages, including the cover page if you purchase a pattern, and 7 if you have the free version. Now, to attach them, you're going to follow the instructions that are on the pages. For example, this one says join piece A1 and A2 along this edge, aligning the gray shapes. So what you're going to do is I went and I cut down one of the sides of the template, and I'm going to do just as it says. I'm going to align this line of A1 and A2, and I'm going to match up my gray shapes, and then using some tape I will attach them together. And then I can go ahead and cut out the perimeter of the shape so that I have my template ready. What you're going to do is repeat this process on all your remaining template pieces. You should have templates for the small body, for the ties, the strap with the curve, and the interior pocket. Let's move on to cutting our fabric. From color 1, you'll need to cut out 2 A pieces from the body template, 4 B pieces from the strap template. I decided to make the shorter straps, so that's what I cut, and 2 C pieces cut from the tie template. From color 2, you'll need to cut out 2 D pieces from the body template and 2 E pieces for the pocket templates. From your non-woven interfacing, you'll need to cut out 1 F piece from the pocket template. And finally, you'll need one number 3 zipper that measures 8 inches. Just remember that the ties and the interior pocket is optional, so if you're not going to add it to your bag, then you don't need to cut out those. Let's start with our first sewing step. So grabbing our C pieces, I already went ahead and pre-ironed mine. And what you're going to do is start by folding it in half with the wrong sides facing each other, and you'll press it to create a crease down the center. Open it back up and then bring those long edges in on both sides to that middle crease that you made. Give it a press and then fold it in one last time to encase the raw edges and give it one final press. Now, if you've watched a few of my other videos, you know my method for doing ties, where I'll fold this short edge over, clip the corners, and then fold the fabric into itself. I tried a different way to make the tie ends to secure the ties closed, so I'm going to show you that method. So to do this, you'll want the fabric to have the right side facing up. You're going to fold the fabric in half like this, so the right sides are facing each other, and you'll fold it in half one more time. So I'll do that again. So we have our right side facing up. We're going to fold it in half with the right sides facing each other, and then we're going to fold it in half again. So I'm just going to take one of my quilting clips and hold that in place. We're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to sew 1/4 inch away from the edge and secure it in place, remembering to backstitch at the beginning and the end. So I have secured this side of my tie. What I'm gonna do is take my scissors and just trim this down to be about 1/8 inch. And on the side where the fold is, I'm going to very carefully just clip that corner, making sure not to cut into the seam. Now I'm gonna do this part slowly so you can watch. What we're going to do is where the first fold is here, we're going to take our finger and pop it out. So you should still see the wrong side of the fabric. And then we're going to lift it over and pull it out again. So you should see your exterior fabric now. And then one last time, we're going to flip that corner on the inside. So what this will do is it will case the piece just like this. So you're gonna wanna just lay the fabric out nice and flat. So now you have this end, which is closed and finished on the top. And you can put in some pins or clips along the length of the strap. I guess the tie, it's not a strap. And you'll take this to your sewing machine and you're going to sew an edge stitch around the perimeter to keep everything in place. And I'm just going to trim any loose threads. And it should be looking something like this when you're done sewing it. I'm going to quickly show you again using my other piece, just in case the first time was a little too fast. So we have the right side facing up. I'm going to fold it in half. Fold it in half again, and then sew across the top here. And then taking your scissors, trim the top, trim a little bit where that fold is. And then you're going to turn it inside out once. And then flip one of the sides over the top. And then flip it one last time. And then the fabric will line up and it will want to encase itself. It's harder to do it when you're holding it up. And then you'll sew around the perimeter to make 2 ties. So taking our A pieces, our body pieces, we're gonna wanna flip it so that the wrong side is facing up. And we're going to grab our template because we need to put this dart onto our fabric. Now, I don't do fashion sewing, so I don't know the technical way to transfer darts over, but I came up with this method and it worked pretty well for me when making the samples for this project. So what you're going to do is on your template, you're going to take a pair of scissors and along one of the dotted lines, you're going to cut across. Just like this. Making sure to stop when you get to the point of the dart, like that. Then you're going to fold it over on the other dotted line. And then fold it back over on that solid dark line, just like this. And I like to just fold it both ways. So now that this is cut open, you'll still be able to use this template again to trace if you're making another bag, and you will be able to have this dart open. So I'm just going to grab a marking pen and I'm going to line up my template, and then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to trace. Oops, get on the fabric. I'm going to trace my dart. Oh my goodness, I'm not great at drawing straight lines. And then I'm going to make sure I fold it to get the center of the dart as well. So you should have something that looks like this when it transfers over. Now to do the other side, all you have to do is flip your template over to the opposite side. And again, line up your fabric with the template, open it up all the way, and trace. As you can see, I am not great at drawing straight lines. This is why templates are great. And then that center, oh my goodness, the center mark. Just like that. So you're going to repeat this process on the other A piece, as well as your 2D lining pieces. If you want to add an interior zipper pocket, you're going to want to do so before you sew the darts in on the lining. So I have that piece here, that's the D piece. And you're going to need your 2 E pieces and your 1 F piece. So you're going to start by taking your E piece and your F piece, and you want the wrong side of your E piece to face the glue side of your fusible, and you're going to fuse them together using the manufacturer's instructions. So after it's fused, I just went ahead and trimmed off the extra bits of fusible. We're going to flip our piece over so the wrong side is facing up, and we're going to create our guidelines for attaching it to the bag. So taking our ruler on one of the 7-inch edges, we're going to measure 3/4 of an inch from the edge, and we're going to make a line down. Then we're going to rotate it, and on one of the 7.5 long edges, again, we're going to measure 3/4 of an inch, make a line, and then again on one of the 7-inch, another line. So this is kind of like our safe space that we're going to have extra seam allowance to sew around at the end. We're going to rotate the piece, and along the 7.5-inch edge, we're going to measure 1/2 an inch from the line we created. And I'm just going to attach it like that. And then we're going to measure the center of that box. So you can see here we made a rectangle. This is where the zipper is gonna go. We're going to make a line down the center, which is 1/4 inch from the edge. And then we're going to make a little triangle on the ends like so. So it should be looking something like this. And if you're using the template, this gives you a bit of an idea what it should look like. Now we're going to take our lining piece, and with the right side facing up, I'm going to fold it in half because I need to find the middle. So I am going to fold it here, and I'm just going to press it with my finger and make a little crease. So when I open it back up, this is my middle mark here. I'm gonna do the same with my marked piece. So I know this and this should meet up with each other. So now that it's centered, I have to get my placement height-wise, and it should be 2.5 inches from the top edge. Just like so, and again, my middle mark should be there. Perfect. So if you'd like, you can take a couple pins and just secure it in place. And what you're gonna do is at your sewing machine, you're going to start at the top corner and sew all the way across and stop here. Then you're going to sew starting down here, do a little back stitch and go all the way across to here. You wanna make sure you don't sew over the short edges of the rectangle, and that will help prevent any puckering when we turn this around to the other side. So again, starting here, I'll make a little mark here. You're going to start here, sew all the way across, and you're going to stop here. Then you're going to sew again down here, all the way across to over here. So once it's sewn, it should look something like this. Now what we have to do is cut along that center line and along the triangular pieces that we drew. So what I like to do is fold the fabric, and very, very carefully I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut through all those layers to the other side. Then I'm going to put the tip of my scissors in and cut across until I get to the point of that triangle. And then I'm going to cut in on an angle to meet with the end of the seam, and be really careful because you don't want to snip your thread, but you do want to get nice and close. And make sure that you're cutting through all the layers of fabric, so it should be open to the back. Perfect. So I'm gonna just trim these little threads. Now we're going to take our fabric and we're going to pull it through the inside of the hole that we made. So we're going to flip it like so. I know it looks a little weird, but that is what the ironing is going to help fix. So pulling it over to this side, just with your fingers, you want to make everything nice and even. So that seam should be right on the edge. And then again at the top here, start by just pressing it with your fingers, and then you're going to bring it to your iron and give it a nice good press, especially around these corners here, because it is easier for the fabric to warp a little bit. So after it is freshly pressed, that seam should be really crisp and lay really flat all on its own. Next, we're going to take our zipper tape and we're going to place it underneath the panel so we can see it through the hole. And we're going to want to center this zipper tape. So center it. And when we're looking at the right side of the fabric, we're going to want to see the zipper teeth and the zipper pull. Now, to keep this in place, you have a couple options. I like to take some pins and put them in to keep it secure. Or if you have double-sided tape, this works really great to hold this in place if you're very particular with how it is centered. So you're going to take some pins and very carefully make sure it is perfectly centered. Then you can take this to your machine and you're going to sew around the perimeter nice and close to the edge. You can use a zipper foot or a smaller sized foot and sew around. I like to use like a 2.5 stitch length, and you're gonna go around the perimeter of the zipper, making sure to go slow when you're going over the ends of the zipper. So now that the zipper is attached to the lining, here I'll just show you what it looks like from behind. The zipper tape should come out a little bit on either end, and that's okay. We're going to give this a trim in the next steps. So we're going to place it so the lining is with the right side down and we can see the interior of our pocket. And what we're going to do next is take our remaining E-piece pocket lining. We're going to place it so that the right side faces the right side of the pocket lining. And we're going to make sure that all the edges align and making sure that we're placing it so that the 7.5 inch edge matches the 7.5 inch edge and this 7 inch edge matches the 7 inch edge. I'm just going to take some quilting clips and making sure I am only clipping the lining pieces together. So I'm going to flip this back over so we see the top of the lining, and I'm going to fold it down so we can see that top edge. And taking to our sewing machine, we're going to sew 1/4 inch away from the edge along the along the top of the pocket. Then we can flip the fabric and sew the bottom of the pocket, flip again, and we can sew the right and the left pieces of our pocket. And I am just going to clip this into place so our lining fabric is out of the way. Now, I forgot to mention, but just remember when you're going over your zipper, sew slow, and also you can go back and forth a couple times just to reinforce the zipper. So I'm going to take my scissors now, and I'm going to trim off my extra zipper tape. Just like that. And then I can take these clips out that were holding back my lining, and I can open it up. And now I have a pocket in my lining. So to make the darts in our exterior piece, what we're going to do is we're going to fold the right sides together kind of on an angle to reveal the markings that we made. We want this center mark to be on the fold, so we have the other line to sew over. We want to make sure these lines end up on top of each other. So to do that, I almost fold it directly in half so that the edge of the bag meets up with the bottom of the bag. And that should put the fold marking right in the center where we want. And taking a couple clips, I'll hold that in place, give it a little bit of a press with my finger, and I like to just flip over the corner to make sure that that blue line is following through onto the back in the right spot. So we're gonna do that on the other side as well. Bring the fabric over till it is on the middle line. And then clip it in place. And then flip it over just to make sure that blue line is on top of each other on both sides. So now you'll take this to your sewing machine and you're going to sew directly on that line to make your dart. And you'll repeat this on your remaining A pieces, which are your exterior pieces, and your D lining pieces. So I have finished all the darts on my bag. And when you're sewing the darts on the lining piece, if you put that pocket, be very careful to not sew into your pocket. It can be easy to do, especially with a small bag because it is smaller proportions that we're dealing with. Just be very careful when you're doing that. Once the darts are sewn, what you're gonna do is press the darts in opposite directions on each piece. So what that means is, for example, on this piece, I press the darts here to the outside or to the edges. And then on this lining piece, I pressed it inwards toward the bottom of the bag. Same thing here. I pressed this set, whoops. I pressed this set towards the inside. These flaps are pointed inwards, and then this one is pointed outwards. And that's gonna help us in our later steps when we are trying to get these seams nice and close together. The next thing we're going to do is attach our ties onto our bag. So working with one piece at a time, we want the right side of our A piece to be facing up. And we're gonna fold it in half to find that middle point. And again, I'm just going to press this with my finger and then open it up. And then taking one of our ties, we want the raw edge to be matching with the top. And we're going to center it with the center marking. And we'll put a clip in there, and we'll do the same thing on the other piece. Fold it in half and find the center. And then line up the raw edge with the other raw edge. Then we'll take this to the machine and we're going to sew just about a scant 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. That way we're not gonna see our stitching later on. So to assemble the exterior, we're going to take our 2 A pieces that have our ties attached, and we're going to lift our ties up so they are out of the way. And we're going to flip our pieces so the right sides are facing each other. And I like to start by lining up our bottom darts. So to do that, I just line up the 2 seams, just like so, and then I put a clip there. I do the same on the other side. And put another clip. And then I lay out my fabric nice and flat. I put a clip in the center. And line up the sides. Put a clip or 2. And depending on the type of fabric you're working with, pins might work better than clips. I have my pins stuck to my machine in my pin cushion, and I didn't feel like taking it out because they would do better with this fabric. But I'm just using what I got. So what we'll do is take this to our machine and we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch away along the edge of the sides and the bottom all the way around, leaving this top edge here, and this opening unsewn. Next, taking our D pieces, we're going to do something fairly similar. Placing the pieces so the right sides are facing each other, and starting with the darts in the bottom, lining up on one side and the other side. And then along both of the sides of the bag. The only difference between this and the exterior, oops, that one's broken. Put that out of the way. Is we need to leave a hole so we can turn this bag inside out later. So what you'll do with this one, and I recommend if you put the pocket, have the pocket on the top so you don't accidentally sew over it. What you'll do is sew down the side and partway to the bottom, sew a back stitch, skip over, start here, and sew all the way to the edge here. You're going to leave this side unsewn, as well as this curved top and this other short edge, and then a hole in the bottom so you can turn it inside out later. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance and a 1.8 stitch length. To attach our straps, the first thing we want to do is cut our curve. Now, if you want, you can leave the strap how it is and have a more boxy finish, but I really like the look that the curve gives the fabric, so we're going to use the template that I made to make a curve on the end. So you can cut this 1 at a time or 2 at a time. I prefer to cut 2 at a time. So I'm going to line my fabric up. And you're going to want to place your curve so that the flat edge is in line with the long edges like this. And the curved end is facing the edge of the fabric and not like this. Otherwise, that would be very interesting end to your fabric. It probably wouldn't look the same. So you want to make sure our template is facing this way. And I'm just going to take my marking pen and trace around the template. And then taking my scissors, we'll cut both sides. Perfect. And then we'll do the same to the other ones. These ones are just inside out, but the process is the same. So I like to start with the exterior of the bag. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric, and the side that isn't curved, we're going to line it up with the bag. So just so you can see the bag here, what I did is opened up the edge here, the 5-inch edge. I gave a little press to the seam about 2 or 3 inches down so it lays flat. And we're going to flip it so the right side is facing up. And we're going to take our strap and place it so the right sides are facing each other. And we're going to sew across to secure it so it'll look something like that. So we're going to repeat that on both sides of the exterior and our lining. So once these straps are attached, it's a little cumbersome, but it will look like this. So on the exterior piece, it looks like this. And what I did is I ironed these seams up towards the strap. And then on the lining, I ironed the seams down towards the inside of the bag. So taking our lining, we're going to turn it so the right side of the fabric faces out. Just like so. And then we're going to take our exterior and open it up. And we're going to place the lining inside the exterior so the right sides face together. Now taking quilting clips or pins, we're going to line up the pieces. Might be a little confusing. I like to start with the straps. These seams on the straps, I line them up on both sides, on this side and on this side. And that's where ironing those seams in opposite directions help. They nest together a little bit better. And I kind of give it a little bit of a shake. You want to make sure that your tie is inside. Same here, you're going to want to flip it inside. And carefully along the curve, you're going to pin around the perimeter. And you want to be careful because you don't want your fabric to overstretch. If you want, even depending on the type of fabric you're using, you can just sew a stitch in there before you put the pieces together. And you're going to want to pin and clip along the opening of the bag and also around the straps. So when you get to your strap, I like to lay one side out and then the other side. Put a couple clips all the way around. This is gonna be a very, very long seam to sew because you're going to sew the mouth of the bag and the straps at the same time. It's all one seam, so definitely make sure that your bobbin has enough to go all the way around. And I will show you what this looks like all pinned up now. So I like to start on the strap. You're going to sew down all the way around one side of the opening, up one of the straps and around, back through the other side of the opening, and then around the strap back to where you started. So after sewing all the way around, you'll have something that looks like this. We're gonna have to make a few snips along the curve just so the fabric lays really nice. So to do that, along the curves of the inside of the bag, I'm just gonna make a few snips, being really careful not to cut into our seam allowance. So now the fabric will lay a little bit flatter. We'll do that to all 4 sides. And then along the curved edge of the top, we're gonna do the same thing, just making some small slits. So when we turn it inside out, oh my, it'll lay nice and flat. And you can also trim any bulk fabric, like right around here. This might be a little too much. There, so it's more like 1/8 of an inch right there. And I'll do the same thing actually first on this side. I'll just trim down the fabric around the curve and make a couple slits where I feel like the fabric might have some issues. Great. So now that all of our slits have been made, we're going to put our hand into the inside of the bag, and that hole in the lining, we're going to slowly turn the bag right side out. So you don't have to rush when you're doing this. Go slow so you're not ripping anything, and if it feels a little too tight, that's okay, just stop. Start by just pulling the lining through and then try to get the exterior through. Now to get the handles through, you might have to use a chopstick or something of that nature to push it through. I'm just slowly grabbing from the inside. Give it a little shake. Perfect. And I'm just poking that corner out. And I like to roll it between my fingers to get the seam to lay nice and flat. And the other strap we gotta pull through still. I have a small hand, so it actually fits in the opening. But if your hands are a little bit bigger than mine, you'll just have to inch it through kind of slow. But that's okay. We don't have to go fast. That's part of sewing. We like to go slow. Perfect. And again, just going to roll this between my fingers and then put my lining in just for a moment. So I'm going to take this to my iron. I'm going to try and roll my seams out as best as I can and give it a really good press to make all of the seams lay nice and flat. After pressing, it should be nice and crisp and everything will lay nice and flat. If you'd like, now would be the time to do a top stitch. You can choose whether you just want to do a top stitch around the opening of the bag or include these straps. I don't know yet if I want to do my top stitch around the straps. I think I'm going to decide at my machine. And when you're at your machine, also close that hole that you made to turn your bag inside out. You can close this either by hand or using your sewing machine. So I decided just to do a top stitch around the hole, the opening of my bag, and not my straps. So our final step is going to be tying our straps together. And you can kind of like put it, I guess you can't see my shoulder. You can kind of put it on your shoulder to see what height you want your bag to sit at. And then just make one knot and then a second knot. And just like that. You have your very own knotted tote bag, and it has a zipper, whoops, it was this side, and it has an interior zipper pocket so you can keep your belongings secure inside, and a stylish tie closure. Thanks so much for watching this tutorial video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to see your version of the knotted tote bag on social media, so make sure to share your photos and to tag me. If you have an idea for a future project, please leave it in the comments along with any questions on today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and happy sewing, everyone!